Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you are all well, safe, and busy or getting busy. We here at Digital Drafting Systems have been and are available for you for any assistance that you might need all the time. Today, it's our pleasure to present our Bluebeam Review and Studio webinar by our Bluebeam Certified Instructor, Ari Redman. Before we jump in, please let me go over some logistics. Obviously, we're going to mute all the lines so that the presenter can present quietly. Please send us all your questions on the chat box or question box. We will be answering as we go or at the end. We're going to record the presentation so we can send it to you guys for future viewing and reviewing. And one note, we have training available. We have been having training available even during the pandemic, hard times. So contact us for any information. As usual, you can send us any questions to info@ddscat.com or call your contact that you know or call us in general. All right, so without any more delays, Ari, take it away.
Thank you, Raquel. All right, let me turn on my webcam so you guys can get a taste. Here I am. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's nice to all have you here. Today, we're going to be focusing on Bluebeam Studio. This is the cloud collaboration set of functions that's in Bluebeam Revu. And first, we'll look at what it means to make a studio account. By the way, a studio account is free, so you guys can make one as we go along. You can get into Studio and look at projects, which is a check-in and check-out system. And I like to use it for archiving. So I'll show you guys how we can do that. Then we'll look at Studio Sessions, the flagship product and function within Bluebeam's Revu. And we can actually work offline while in sessions, and we can work on the cloud. We can work with so many people at the same time. I believe the cap is about 5,000 people, which is quite a lot. And then we'll look at Attendee Alerts, the records list, and notifications and permissions for both studio projects and sessions. So let's jump into the program. So I'm in Bluebeam right now. I'm in Bluebeam Revu, and I have opened up a local file, but this file, and I can tell that it's local because if you look next to the name, there isn't a special icon next to it. But when I'm in Studio, I can tell whether I'm in a Studio project file or one in Studio Sessions. So let's look at Studio now. We can go to Studio by clicking on the Studio function right here. It looks like a little house on the bottom left. And then we have to sign in. Let me sign out and show you guys what it's like if it's your first time. So you can choose between the US servers and the UK ones, depending on where you live. There's probably a few other servers, so you can click on Manage Servers and connect to one that's closest to you. So I'm going to sign in. I can also tell that I'm signed out right now because this icon right here in the bottom, in the upper right, has two power plugs that are disconnected physically, like that, and there's a little red dot. So here I am, I'm going to sign in, but let's pretend that I don't have an account. So I don't need to own the program. All I need to do is install Bluebeam Revu, and then I can click on Create Account and make one. You can actually invite people who don't own the program to a studio session, and they will have the functionality of Revu standards. So this is a great way to introduce people to studio sessions. So all you have to do is fill all this in, and when you're ready, you'll have an account. You just have to verify your email. I'm going to log in now, and let's look at Studio within Bluebeam. All right, so I'm in. And so we have two major tabs here. We have projects and we have sessions. By the way, if you need to sign out, all you have to do is click on the Studio dropdown right here, and you can see whether you're signed in and change your server, and you can sign out right here. Now you can see that I'm online. I have this little green dot next to the power plugs. So I have a few projects that I've been invited to and projects that I own. So I'm the admin of some of these projects. We're going to go into our project for presentations, and let's look at studio projects first. Now we have the project dialog open right here. We have a list of all the different files that we have. And to the right of that, we can see the different files right here as well. So we can basically click on them and we can view them. I'm going to double click on them. It's going to ask me if I want to open this in split view. So this means that I'm going to look at the project pane right here and the file itself. Here's the file, and now you can see that I've opened an example floor plan that is in here. It's very similar to the one that I have locally, and you can tell that it's in Studio Projects because of this lock icon right here. So this is telling me that this icon or this file is checked in right now, and I need to check it out in order to make changes. But I can still view the file, I can look at it, I can click on this check mark, But notice that if I go to properties, everything is grayed out. I'm unable to make any changes to this check mark. If I right click on top of it, I can't even delete it and I can't even copy it. So everything here is locked and loaded. This includes every markup that is on this file. So now let's say that I wanted to make some changes on this file. All I need to do is in the project pane, I can right click on the file and click on checkout. You can also download a copy of your files here. So if you upload them to projects and do some work, then you can download a local copy. So another way is if you don't have the project pane open, I'm going to close it just to show you guys. It's actually going to ask me if I want to close the documents within the project as well as the pane. So I'm going to say no to that because I want to keep it open and show you guys. There we go. Now I've maximized my drawing space and I have the project open. So you don't have to have the project pane open while you have a file from projects open. So now if I wanted to, I can click on the lock icon right next to the name of my file right here. And now I can check it out. I can also look at revision history. So let's check it out first. Now you'll notice that the icon is changing. Now it shows a little paper with a little arrow pointing to the bottom right. That means that I have checked out the file. Now there is an actual third icon that you will see, especially if you see that somebody else has checked out a file, and it's going to show a person with that same blue arrow on the bottom right. And that means that somebody else has checked out the file, so you cannot check it out at that time. So this is why only one person can work on a file in projects at once. Let's look at this check that I made previously. Now I can move it around. Now I can modify its properties, and I have everything available to me. Let's get rid of it. So I can right click and delete it. And let's make another one. Because if you guys have seen my previous webinars, I am so fond of checks. I don't know why. Let's make a green one, nice and simple. And now, in order for our changes to be saved, we have a couple of things we can do. We can save as we go. So right now I've saved what I've done, but the file is still checked out to me. So nobody else can do work on it, and I can still continue working. So if you need to work on projects and continue working on it as you go, and you want to save periodically, no problem. You can save your work. You can also do a file and then save as, so you can save a local copy right here and right now if you wanted to. Let's check in our file. So we're going to click on the icon. Look at all these options that we have. We can check it in. If we update the server copy, that means that other people can view the changes, but it is still checked out to you. So I'm actually going to do that right now. I'm going to actually write a little comment. I'm going to say revision 1 in this. And so now other people are going to see what I've done, but oh, there we go. The icon usually doesn't do that, but there you go. Now it's showing that it actually temporarily checked itself in. That's why the icon had the lock icon for a second. And now it's back to showing the icon that says that I've checked it out because it's just a piece of paper. So this is great. I've updated the server copy so whoever is viewing can see this green check instead of the orange one that I had before. I can, of course, undo checkout, which means that if I lose internet in the middle and there's some kind of a bug, I can always undo my process to make sure that the file is basically still checked in. So if I needed to, I could do that. And I can also revert changes if I ever make a mistake and I want to just undo everything that I've done. It's not a problem. Let's check our file back in. I can once again give it a comment. Revision 2 this time is pretty appropriate. I think I've typed revision 1 several times in previous webinars, so I've done this quite a lot. Now the lock icon is back. If we want to open the project pane again and go to another file in the project, we just have to click on it right here. The project pane opens. We can see that this file is now checked out. Let's look at this one. We're going to open it side by side like we had before so we can keep the project pane open. Let me collapse the properties area. There we go. And we can basically look at several files at once, and as soon as we open them for viewing, the lock icon appears. Now, you can only check out one file at a time, so this is why I like to use Studio Projects as an archiving tool. The reason is, if you lose internet, or if you don't have internet, you cannot use Studio Projects, and you might lose a lot of work that you've done if suddenly you just lose power. So what's really nice is you can use Studio Projects as a cloud storage, very similar to Dropbox or to Google Drive and things like that. So you can upload everything to a project and you have a lot of different options. So let's get rid of this file right here. We can leave that one open for now. Let's look at some of the settings in projects. And these settings are going to be very similar to settings that we're going to see in Studio sessions. We can access our settings by clicking on the project settings button right here. It looks like a little abacus. Now we can see the name of the project and we can change it if we wanted to. We can see the unique project ID. And I'll show you guys very soon, we can manage our notifications right here. So we'll come back to that. Let's look at user settings or user access first. So you can see all the different people that I have allowed to have access to this project. So technically, you guys can take this 9-digit code and join the project. However, I've restricted users. So even if you guys try, if you click on the plus sign here and you click on join, you cannot join my project. And that's because I've only allowed specific people's emails to be joined. So these are all my coworkers, and I'm glad to have them. So let's look at permissions. Here is where you can start to give people certain permissions for certain functionality. For example, if you want other people to be able to manage user access, which I do not recommend, then you can do that, of course. If you want them to be able to send PDFs to sessions or send invitations, not a problem. But right now, by default, people can only share file links, and I've allowed that. And if I didn't want it to, I can just click on allow, click on the drop down next to it, and click on deny. So this is a really great way to make sure that your permissions are set. Now, there is a permission that's very, very important. So let's go to folder permissions, and I'll show you something. What happens by default is when you create a project, it is set to read only. So a lot of the people that you invite to a project will say, how come I can't check out the file? I don't understand. I'm trying to check out a file. The option's not there. I've done this before. And that's because by default, a project is set to read. So people can only see their files, but they cannot check them out and they can't modify and work on them. So I've already gone to my folder permissions. Next to project root, I've clicked on read, and then I clicked on the dropdown, and I set it to read and write. So write is another way of saying check out and make modifications. The third option is read, write, and delete. So if I wanted to, I could give people a little bit more leeway, and if they needed to delete a file, they could. Just in case, I don't want anybody to accidentally delete my files, so I'm just going to set it to read and write, and I can click apply, and I'm good to go. Now, let's say that you wanted to give permissions to different people. So let's say that if you are a surveyor, for example, you have some guys that work on the field and you have some guys that work in the office. The guys in the office, you want them to have full control and to become admins of the project. And the guys in the field, you want them to just be able to read and write and be able to basically, do their markups, and that's it. Obviously, we're not using projects to do our markups, but this is just an example. So we can click on this plus button right here. And now we can choose different people. So I'm going to choose Raquel, this happens to be her, and Alan. I'm going to hold the shift key and select them both at the same time. And I'm going to click OK. Now they're in the list. So what is there by default, this inherent from parent option, means that whatever the attendees can do, they can do right now. But I'm going to change that. So I'm going to click next to this. And now I want to allow Alan to read, write, and delete. I really trust him, so I'm going to give it to him. And Raquel, I think I trust you too, right? So I'm going to give you read, write, and delete as well. Very nice. So we are good to go. And now they have different permissions than the attendees. I can also create groups if I wanted to. So I can go here, start putting people in different groups. So I could have field crew and office people, and I can do anything I want here. For now, let's not get so fancy. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just make a group name and you add members to it. Very simple stuff. So let's not worry about that for now. All right, everything here is looking good. So I'm going to click OK. All the settings have been changed. If you're in a project and you claim that the settings have not changed, all you need to do is get out of it and then come back in. So you can close out of it here. Now it's asking me to close the documents with the project tab again. I'll say yes this time. I don't need this to be open right now. And then to really refresh and make sure that it works, I can sign out of Studio projects and sign back in, and that should ensure that my permissions have been set and have been changed. So let's go back into projects really quick because there's a couple of things I want to look at with you guys. Just to show you again, if you're not familiar, to join a project or make one, all you have to do is click on the plus sign right here. So you can click on new project and you can click on join right here. So you guys can't join this one because it's got that special 9-digit code that only I'm allowed in. Well, me and my colleagues, of course. Let's go back to our project settings. And this time, let's look at manage notifications. This is really important, especially if you're collaborating with a lot of people and you want to see everything that they're doing. So here, this is basically, we're online, we're on a website, studio.bluebeam.com, and this very fancy URL right up here. And now we can choose our notifications. So I've enabled notifications in general, and anytime someone alerts me about a markup, I will get an email. So I've checked that on. I can make sure and click apply to both of these. If I wanted to, I can get a daily digest of all session and project activity. So this is actually quite useful, and it will give you basically a summary of what's been done and who's done what. We can also get an email when people update anything in a session and when a project is updated overall. This can get a little bit cumbersome and there could be too many emails being sent, especially if a lot of work has been done. So I keep these off for now. And we can manage other projects and sessions by clicking on this button. And we can look at all the different ones that we're part of and manage them here. But it's a little easier and more accurate to go within the project and session and just manage that specific one. And that way you can keep track, especially if you have different permissions for each one. So we're good to go. We can exit out of the Studio Notifications tab. And now we're good to go. Let me just show you guys how this project pane works. So we've already looked at a lot of the things here. If we need to add more people to the project, we can click on this invite button. And let me explain what all of these buttons mean, because this can be a little bit confusing at first. You can click on copy invitation. And what this does is, I'm just going to open a little notepad. It allows you to basically paste all of this nice information. And this is a URL that can be clicked on. So you can send a manual email and this will be there and people can join your project by clicking on that. So that's pretty nice. I don't need to save that. And another thing you can do is go to your address book. However, even though I have Outlook and this does work, it doesn't seem to send an email. So I wouldn't use this as of yet. It seems to be a little bugged out and it depends on if you have Outlook or another email that has a plugin that Bluebeam has actually installed in that program. So Outlook does, but so far nobody has gotten an email from me when I've tried to use the address book. So the best way to do it is you click on the plus sign right here and you type people's email. So just type everyone's email and it will be on the list right here. Once you click OK and OK, once their name is on this list, it's actually going to say that you've sent an email to those people. So actually, I'm going to do something quite fun. I think I'm going to send one to my boss, Sandra. She is actually in this call too. Hi, Sandra. So I'm going to send this just so you guys can see. She's now on the list. When I click OK, Bluebeam Studio has sent email invitations to the attendees. So now Sandra can become part of this project and she can join it. So very good. She will just be an attendee because I have not given her specific permissions like I did for Raquel and Alan. Okay, let's look at the project pane right here. Here we can see the name of our project. We can search amongst our pages. So if we have hundreds of pages in a project or different folders with pages, no problem. You can start to search here and you'll find them. You can click on the add button right here. You can create a new folder so I can start to group different files and different disciplines in folders. You can upload your files here and you can upload folders. So if you have lots of files that are in a folder, you can just upload them all at once. You don't have to upload one by one by one. We can go and click on actions and sync is the only action. This is a great way to refresh whether somebody checked in a project or a document or not. We can actually look at the checkout review and we can see if it actually would refresh. I guess it's not going to show when I checked out. That's fine. I guess it only shows other people, but you can see who checks out what and when. So it's quite useful. And then you can sort your pages by clicking on the A and Z icon right here. You can sort them by name or date modified, last checked in and out, so you can see what's been checked in and out more recently. It depends on what you're doing. And you can view these in a list, or you can view them in thumbnail view. And that's basically Studio projects in a nutshell. So I recommend that you guys use this as an archiving tool. Try not to do your active work here. Studio Sessions has been created for active projects and active work. But Studio Projects is great for uploading milestones and keeping track of the different things that you're doing and making sure that you have a back. When you're done with your work for the day or you've basically achieved a milestone of 60% DDS or design and drafting or design development, then upload that and make sure that it has a nice date next to it. And that way you'll have a nice cloud backup on Bluebeam itself. All right, let's look at Studio Sessions. By the way, before we get into that, there is a filter icon here. So if you have a ton of projects, you can also filter them and you can sort them. So quite nice. So Studio Sessions. Studio Sessions is really, really special because of the fact that you can work on a PDF with other people at the same time. It's really, really fun. It has a lot of similar features to projects, but very, very different functionality. So for example, the plus sign once again allows us to make a session and join one. And you can filter just like in projects. Let's open this session for presentations. All right, now we can see who is online and offline right now. So right now we've got 3 of the people that I've invited offline And it looks like Raquel is online. Her name is a little bit bigger and it's bolded, and that's awesome. Now look what happens next to my name if I open a file under Documents. It's now going to show exactly what file I've opened. So that's quite nice. And later on, we're going to see that Raquel is going to open a file, and you'll see whether or not which one she's opening, whether it's the example floor plan or mine. Actually, since Raquel can hear me, she can open a file whenever she wants, and we'll see it appear soon. While she's doing that, we can look at some of our project settings. So let me show you before we get into settings some of the buttons that we have up here. We'll go from top to bottom. So we can always click on the name of our session right here. This is the session for presentations. And we can click on the dropdown and we can click on settings. Oh, look at that. See how my screen just flashed orange? That means something happened. So two things happened. Now we can see Raquel has opened the Instructor Navarro document that I also have open. And it says right down here in the records list that she's reconnected. If I mouse over it, it tells me exactly what time she did it. So it was literally a second ago. So we can see when people join a project, or excuse me, join a session, when they leave a session. It's quite useful. So next to the drop-down and next to the settings button, we have the leave session button. So if I leave temporarily, no problem. I'm still online. I just left the session. So let's go back into it. And the button next to this is only available for admins or people who have full control. This is the finish session button. So if I wanted to finish the session, and that means the session basically is gone, then I can do that. But never fear, you're not going to lose all your files, and I'll tell you why in a second. Let me just cleanse my palette. Excuse me. All right. So when you finish a session, or if you set a session to expire, let me show you what that means. I'll go to settings and show you. So the expiration can be enabled in settings, and day and a time for the session to expire. Don't worry, it will never expire without you being in the session itself. So let's say that the session expires tomorrow, but I'm so busy tomorrow, and the next day on Sunday, I log in and basically it says your session has expired. I'll show you what that looks like right now. So if I was to finish a session, I can include markups from specific people. I can save all of my documents and all the work that we did in the session to a specific folder on my PC. And I can choose not to save files, close files after finishing if I wanted to, and I can generate a session report. I'll show you how to manually do that while a session is open, but you can always make a final report by doing this. I'm going to click cancel because I like this session. All right, so we can see this. We can set our status right here in this little dropdown. We can type in a custom status, so feeling fresh, for example, or we can click on the dropdown and we have some more formal statuses that we can use. We can, for example, say that we are reviewing, we're waiting for something to be done, we've finished with our work for the day. So that's quite nice to be able to tell people what we've done. And when I do that, let's pretend that I'm reviewing. We will see that I've changed my status in the records list. So that's quite useful. All right, so we can see our attendees, of course. Raquel is patiently waiting. She's going to be demonstrating some stuff for us pretty soon. And let's look at attendee access first. This is how we can see who is allowed to join the session. I can also deny people. So a common question that's asked is, can I delete somebody from a session? And at this time, the answer is no. So once their email is there, the email will stay there. So if I wanted to, I can deny someone, and that way they can't get in, but other people in the session can still see their name and still see their email. So not the best, but at least we know that we can deny them. We can also copy the session invitation right here, just like we did in projects. And I can add more people by clicking on the add button. And this is a very similar dialogue to the projects one. I can add their emails, go through the address book and go through Outlook, but I don't recommend that. It doesn't really work that well. And copy the invitation right here. You can even write a little optional message and say, when you join, please do such and such and such, or this session will expire on this day, so this is our deadline, for example. So sessions are seen as more of a temporary thing. That's why you can't really delete people from a session, but at least you can deny them and you don't have to really recreate a session every time, but it's much more temporary than a project. So let's go back, let's go here to the invite button. So you can see that we can get there in two different ways. We can go to attendee access and then add, or we can just simply click on the button itself. So it's the same dialogue right here. All right, and here in the documents area, we can upload our files by clicking on the add file button right here, and we can sort them. So without further ado, let's get to the fun part. This is why we're all here. Raquel is here and she is going to be on page 1 with me. And soon you're going to see that she's going to make a markup. She should be making it somewhere. I don't know where though. And the fun thing is I don't have to worry about where because there's a way to find it. So check this out. Raquel added a typewritten text. I don't know where it is. I didn't see anything change on my screen. Let's just click on it. Oh, she's in the middle of making it. So there it is. This is her little text box. She's editing it. We can see all the changes she's making. Whoa, she's going through a lot of stuff. Every time she edits and makes anything, we see it. Every deletion, every addition. And there it is. Please insert picture here. Very nice. So she is finished with her markup. And we're seeing all of this in real time. She's modifying it. She's doing stuff to it. Now, while she does that, notice that I have it selected, but I can't make any modifications to it. I can't move it. I can't delete it. If I click on it and I go to properties, it's grayed out. So even though I'm the admin, even though this is my session, I'm not allowed to make any changes to anybody else's markups. This is also true of this check right here. And I can tell who made it by looking in properties. So A. Biermacher made this one. This one is mine, and I can modify it any way I'd like. So there we go. I can move it. And there's this blue one right here. Looks like Alex made this one. Awesome. And Raquel, I believe, made this Cloud Plus right here. Awesome. So we see our markups. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go offline and I'm going to show you guys what happens when we go offline. So I'm going to click on my little icon right here. Yes, I do want to work offline. Thank you for checking with me. Excellent. I can't tell who's online now. So Raquel could be online or offline, but I won't know because I have no internet connection. Kind of. So I'm working offline. I'm now going to make a lot of markups. So we're going to go to Tools, Markup. Let's use the highlighter tool. I love that tool. And let's put some checks next to these words right here. I'm going to put quite a few. I'm going to put one right here, and you'll notice that there are these little red dots appearing next to the green checks. That's quite interesting. I wonder what those mean. So I've got 3 of these markups, and right now on Raquel's end, she cannot see these because I'm offline. Now, this red icon, if I mouse over it, it says pending upload. That means that right now, while I'm offline, I can still do work in a session. And I can go offline and online, and if I lose internet connection or if I lose my data connection, it's not a problem. But what this means is that I need to go back online in order for these to upload. Let's see how fast they upload. So I'm going to go back on now. 1, 2, 3, and they went back in the order that I put them. So this one first, then second, then third. That was pretty fast. Now Raquel can see them, and I can see that she's online. Very nice. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys something really, really cool. Let's say that I want to communicate with Raquel. I like the text that she put here, but I want her to move it a little bit to the left. You know, maybe I have some minor OCD or something, you know. So I'm going to right click on top of her markup. And by the way, you can copy somebody else's markup if you wanted to, and then you can paste. It becomes your markup now. So we can see now that this is mine. And it's a nice way of not having to reinvent the wheel. If you need to take somebody else's markup and make a copy of it, no problem. So I'm just going to delete that. So I want to tell Raquel to move this a little bit more to the left. I want it to line up with the text right here. So I'm going to right click on top of it. And we have 2 things we can do. And there's 2 different orders of operations that we can do. We can reply and we can alert attendee. First, I'm going to reply because I want the instructions for Raquel to be ready and waiting for her when I alert her. I don't just want to alert her and then she doesn't know what to do. She's just been alerted, so what? So I'm going to click reply. You can see this little white box has appeared, and I can say, hi, Raquel. Please, let's type better. Please move this to the left a bit. Thanks. So I wrote a nice little set of instructions. I'm going to press the escape key because if I press enter, it's just going to go to the next line. So we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to press the escape key. And now it has appeared in my record. If I click on it, then it selects the markup, but we don't see the reply. The reply is not visible on our sheet. Instead, we need to open our markups list. So I'm going to click on the markups button right here in the bottom left. And let's make sure that I select it. There we go. And it will highlight it, and we can see this little reply underneath the markup itself. So all my instructions are right here. And what Raquel wrote in the markup itself is also under comments. So comments is really, really useful to see what people are trying to tell you with a markup. Now, Raquel doesn't know that I've written this yet. You know, she'll have to look at the records list and keep her eyes open. what if she's busy? What if she, isn't at her PC and I just want her to see something really, as soon as possible? So I'm going to right click on top of the markup and I can alert attendee. I'm going to choose, I can choose anybody, so it doesn't have to be Raquel, even though it's her markup. I can choose anyone from this list. I'm going to choose her because I want her to see it. And now what's going to happen is in the notifications area, she's going to get a nice notification. Now, Raquel, I would like you to notify me about any markup that you want. It'll be a surprise. I want all of our viewers to see how easy it is for me to tell what Raquel is trying to tell me about. So let's go to the record. And she's actually moved it. Oh, Raquel, how nice of you. Thank you so much. She knew exactly what to do. I gave her all the instructions and she's aligned it. OCD satisfied. Now, Raquel, you can click on one of the markups, any one that you want, and you can right click, alert attendee, and then you can choose me if you'd like. And I want everybody to see what happens in my notifications area so you can see how nice and big and bold these notifications are. All right, I've gotten something. She's added a highlight. That's good. Now, where is that highlight? Let's see. Right here. Okay. Now, looks like she has modified something to do with that. Let's see what yep, she's actually made a reply. Excellent. So Raquel is doing the right order of operations. She's writing the reply first. Please change this color to red. Thank you. She also has a little OCD too. Very nice. Good. Now, let's click on this and let's change it to red. That's a good idea. Red will stand out a bit more. Good, good, good. And now let's see if she notifies me. So very similar to doing a reply, you click on it, right click, and alert attendee. Let's see. Yep, I got a notification. Look at that. She alerted me to the highlight. Let's pretend that I didn't know where it was. I'm just going to click on it. And there it is. It zooms in my screen. I can now see the red check. So this is awesome. This is how we can communicate without having to worry about calling each other on the phone or scheduling a Zoom meeting and making some big formality on it. You can communicate with anybody like this. It's really great. And another thing is, let's not forget the chat box. So thanks, Raquel. And this chat that I just typed in is part of the records list. It's not a markup. It doesn't appear in the sheet, but it's quite useful. So Raquel is awesome. I'm so happy that she's helping me today. This is our first time doing this together, and she is performing with flying colors. Really, really great. Now, let's look at another set of markups together. What we'll do is, I think Raquel added some on another page. I wonder which page. Let's go to my thumbnails list. And it's hard to tell from here. I can obviously see that there is one on the 5th page, but let's actually go back to Studio and let's look at the records list. I'll scroll up to a land before time, as they say, and let's see which one it was. I would assume that in the records list, she probably made it, let's see, maybe right over here, or was it this one? Let's see. And if I don't know where it is there, then Raquel can notify me about that markup. So Raquel, why don't you notify me about the markup that you made on the 5th page? That way I don't have to look for it manually. And this is a great way of showing people that we can basically do this instantaneously. So she knows where her markup is. It's kind of lost in the list, but we can look at the record and look at that later. So actually, while she does that, oh, there it is. That was quick. And everybody can see this notification, by the way. It's a public notification. So here I can click on this. It takes me to the correct page. You can see down here that we're in page 5 of 6. There's her markup. Very nice. So she wants to calculate the area of this office. That sounds great. You guys can see how to use the area tools and dynamic fill in some of our other webinars and in our blogs and tutorials on our website. So we'll be sure to send you guys a link to that. Very nice. So as usual, just to be a little annoying, I'll make another check just to say, will do. I'll do it. I'll make the area later. Excellent. Now let's make a report of all the stuff that we've done. So we have to go back to the records list. And let's click on these other 3 dots and 3 lines. It's very similar to the markups button, but don't get it confused. Now, the thing is that not everybody has access to this button. You have to have certain permissions. So I'll show you those permissions a little bit later. So let's click on this. We can now make it's very similar to a markup summary report, but it's actually a record summary of the session itself. And this is not just for one file in the session, it's for all the files in the session. So we can give it a title. We can make it either landscape or portrait. I like it to be portrait, a little bit easier to read. We can choose different kinds of columns that show information about each markup and each activity that happened in the session. Let's click OK and let's look at it. We're going to save it. That's a good place to save it. And there it is. It opens up as its own separate file. It's its own separate PDF. So we can see all the attendees that are part of the session. The date that I made the report is right here, all the documents that are part of that, and here is the record. So the icons are quite nice. We can see when people join or leave, when files themselves are being uploaded, and so on and so forth. And look at this. This is pretty extensive. A lot of people have been doing a lot of work on this one. We can scroll all the way down, and the last thing was my highlight. Very nice. And this is basically a session report. So it's very similar to making a markup report. The markup report button is, or the markups list report is right here. They call it the summary button. And so don't get it confused with the session one. The session one looks very similar to the markups one. Okay, awesome. So let's look at some of our settings now. So we can go to our session for presentations name and click on settings. So once again, we can change the name of our session. The expiration date can be enabled, like I showed you guys earlier. We can see how much space is taken up by both of our files in the session. Only 8 megabytes. We can still send this in an email. It's pretty good. Let's click on Manage Notifications. And very similar to our project, we can enable notifications for this specific session. And these are our account preferences as a whole. So I can send myself an email with markup alerts for all sessions. Very nice. All right. And let's go back to our settings. Let's go to our permissions. They're a little bit different. So here I'm allowing people as a whole, all attendees, to save as, so they can make local copies of their files. They can print files, they can write markups and create markups, they can send alerts, but they're not allowed to add documents and they don't have full control. Let's look at Alan. I've already changed his modifications. Alan has full control. I trust him. So he's been given the ability to revoke people, deny people, delete the whole thing. He can finish the session if he wanted to right now. He could sabotage the whole webinar. And Raquel has the same exact permission. So Raquel, I don't want to piss you off. You might, just kidding. And of course, just like in projects, we can click on the plus button right here and we can add more people. So I can make Alex and Jimmy, I can give them different kinds of permissions if I wanted to. For now, they're still under the attendees list, so that's fine. And basically, that's it. So let's go back and make sure everything is still restricted so you guys can't get into my session. Only the people that I invite can get in. And this is a great way to ensure security and accountability within your session. You don't just want random people to copy this 9-digit code and they're in. All right, very good. I believe that we've gone over basically everything that's relevant to studio projects and sessions. I will show you a little detail about sessions as a whole. By the way, you can see the icon for sessions is here. It looks like a stand-up bulletin board, and projects looks like a chalkboard, so to speak. So a little bit different for both of them. You could say that a chalkboard is more permanent than a mobile bulletin board where you can, erase it and you can start to draw with a marker. So it's a nice little analogy for how projects and sessions actually functions. In a session, you cannot save. So notice that all this time we've been making markups, but the save button is grayed out. So I can't save anything. So what happens is everything is saved automatically. And even if I'm working offline, it's still there. Now, obviously, it's safe to go back online and make sure that my markups are added to the session, because when they're not, they're pending upload. But the good news is that even if I'm offline and I make markups and my PC crashes or I close out of Bluebeam because I forgot, and if I go back in, it's saved a local copy on my PC. It's a temporary local copy in our temporary folder. And all the markups are still there. So you don't really have to be online and you don't have to save. Of course, to be safe, I can go to File and Save As, and I can save a local copy just in case. And that way I can make sure that everything is working and I don't lose any of my work. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint, make sure that we've gone over everything. It looks like we've gone over everything. And I believe that is studio projects and sessions in a nutshell. Good, 40 minutes, not bad. All right, guys. So I believe that it's time to do some questions. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Okay, this is the time for you guys to ask questions to Ari. Write it on the questions or chat box. Thank you, Ari, for a great presentation. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was our first time collaborating, and you were awesome. Really
thank you. Okay, Ari, so we have some questions, and you guys keep them coming, write them on the question box and chat box. One of the questions we have is, if anyone knows the 9-digit code or the number for a project or a session, can they join it?
Good question. So like I was telling you guys earlier, no, not necessarily. You have to make sure that you restrict attendee access. So I'll just show you guys again. Here, I can make sure that I go into my session and I can go to my settings. So click on the name and settings. And here, under attendees, oops, this is in my way, 1 second. There we go. We had a little bit of a mouse over bug. Perfect. Back to attendees, restrict attendees. So if this is unchecked, you could just join with my 9-digit code, but because it's checked, you can't. And the same goes for projects. Let's open one really quickly. Just show you guys to remind you where it is. You can go to your project settings right here by clicking on the abacus button. And user access, restrict users. So restrict attendees, restrict users. It's very similar. An attendee is more temporary and a user is more permanent. And that's why projects is more permanent than sessions. So only these people on this list of emails can join this project. Very good question.
All right, thank you, Ari. There's another question. Can you show again how you do the report out of the session or the session report?
Sure, no problem. So let's go back there. Let's go into a session, get out of projects, and let's just open this file. We don't have to open a file, but I just want to have one open. You know, I don't like the blank space. So to make a report for sessions, it's very similar to the markups button. So the markups button is here in the bottom left corner. It's the exact same icon, but when you mouse over it, it says report. So it's next to your filter button. Now, by default, people cannot make reports unless they're given full control. Sadly, it's the only way to allow people to generate a session report. They have to have full control over the session. So right now, the only people who can do it are myself, because I'm the admin, and Raquel and Alan, because they have full control and I've given them specific permission. So if you don't see this button, that's because you've been invited to a session and you have not been given control. So you just click on the button, and we've already gone over this, but here are all the settings. You'll click OK and your report is ready.
All right, thank you, Ari. Okay, next question is, how do I tell someone to change something? Can Bluebeam Revu send them an email if they aren't inside the program?
Yes, excellent. So that has to do with alerts. Just like Raquel was showing, I now have these 2 notifications from her, and we have replies. So once again, I can click on any of the markups. It doesn't have to be mine, it could be somebody else's. So I'm actually going to click on Alex's markup. Let's right click on it. We can alert attendee, and that will give them a blinking notification and tell them to please look at this markup, but it doesn't tell them what they need to do. It doesn't give them instructions on what needs to be done. So if you want to be sophisticated, you can make a reply first. You can say, didn't Alex make this too big? My God, it's really a big check mark. And so then I can press escape. And then in the records list, there it is. So once again, I can click on the check mark, right click, alert attendee. I can choose Raquel again because I've already chosen her previously. I can also go to other or choose if you haven't done this yet. It depends on what you've done. And I can choose anybody from the list. I'm going to alert Raquel about Alex's check mark because, you know, I don't want to embarrass him too much. Although the problem is that I am embarrassing him because it's in the records list. It's all public. Oh, man. Sorry, Alex. I know he's watching, so I had to make fun of him a little bit. Perfect. And now I've alerted Raquel. In her notifications, she will see this. And so, for example, even with previous notifications, I can click on them and I can immediately go to the notification. And it'll take you to the page that it's on too. So this one's on page 1, and this one is on page 5. Very nice. And that is how you can communicate with people.
All right. Okay, so there's another question that it's, what is the main difference between project and session?
Okay, good questions. So Sessions is a cloud collaboration tool that allows 5,000 people at most to work on the same project and session at the same time. Let me actually show you guys a really cool image that I've got here. So I found this on Bluebeam's FAQ. You can go to their website and they have a frequently asked questions page. And I just basically made a snippet of this. So this shows you that projects basically doesn't really have any limitations. You can also put files that are not PDF files into a project, for example. So if you wanted to, an AutoCAD file or a Revit file can be placed in there. And if somebody tries to access it from within the projects, it'll automatically open the default CAD or BIM program associated with that file. So in this case, it would be AutoCAD and Revit. So that's quite nice. There is no issue with file size, and Markups don't have to be a certain size. Markup alerts cannot be done in projects. Another reason why projects is more of an archiving tool and sessions is more of a let's work on this current job right now tool. And so here in sessions, you can see that there are a few limitations. Sorry, it wasn't 5,000 people, it was 5,000 files. Only 500 people can join a session at once. My bad. I mean, it's still a pretty big number, right, guys? And you can only use PDFs in sessions. You also cannot create folders in sessions. So I know that everybody has been asking me for a while, can I make a folder in sessions and start to organize tons of different projects? Sadly, you cannot make folders. And so the way to circumvent this is each session should be made for a specific job. And then you can have all the files associated with that job in that folder. And then you'll have several, like you'll have about 20 or 30 sessions and maybe, 5 or 10 projects, for example. So the files themselves cannot exceed a gigabyte, which is very large. Don't worry. You'll have to put thousands upon thousands of markups on it to get there. Each markup itself can't exceed 10 megabytes. Not too big of a deal. Most markups are kilobytes in size, so you'll probably never exceed that unless you have a very large image, for example. And luckily, space-wise, it's still unlimited, so you can make as many sessions as you need. So quite nice. All right, and that's basically the difference between the two. And you've already seen how they work in the webinar. So.
All right, thank you, Ari. Next to that, there's another question that we know we went over that, but probably needs clarification. How often can you get the notifications? Can you change to a specific frequency?
Yes. So you can get a notification for a particular markup or an alert as often as you want. But let's say that you wanted to get email notifications. So you can control that. Don't worry, I'll show you guys again. No big deal. We'll go to our sessions and let's go to our settings. So we click on the drop down for sessions, click on settings, and let's manage our notifications. So this is for the session itself. So we've enabled it for the session. So whenever I get pinged for a specific notification, I will get an email saying, hey, this person has alerted you with something. So with every little markup, I'm getting a notification now. Then when I want an email alert from the session itself and the markups, I can also check this on. So you have to enable this first and then enable the second account preference option. And then every day you can get a daily digest of all session and project activity if you wanted to. Excuse me. I'm a little gassy today. And yeah, that is it. You have many different options here. So if you want tons of emails and you don't mind flooding your inbox, you can turn all these on and every little detail will be communicated to you through email. And that's also great if you don't have Bluebeam open. So you don't have to have the program open to get these notifications.
That's awesome. All right. Okay, so next question. Do you have to have a license to set up a project and be the admin?
So yes, you do. You have to own either Review Standard, CAD, or Extreme to create a project or a session. So like we talked about earlier, what's nice about sessions is that you can invite people who do not have a license. So if I was to invite any of you guys in the audience today and you don't currently own Bluebeam, just install the program. You'll basically have it in viewer mode. So if we go to the review dropdown up here, we can see that I have markup mode checked on. And that's because I've registered. And you can see that I've registered because the unregister button is here. If I didn't register, it would say register instead. And then I can switch to view mode. I'll show you guys how it looks. It basically changes the profile that you're in. Sometimes I've actually made sure that to set it to this specific profile. And now I can't, well, I'm in a session, so I can. Let me actually open up a local file to show you guys. This is a great example of how in view mode, I can actually still make markups in a session. It's quite cool. So here in the tools dropdown in markup, I cannot make any markups. And I basically can only view PDFs in view mode. So anybody who installs or downloads and installs Bluebeam Revu, they can basically just use it as a PDF viewer if they needed to. In a session, I still have access to markups. I have access to all the different functions in Review Standard. So as long as you are invited to a session by someone, you can still have access. You can start to play around with it. You can even have your toolbox and start messing around with that. So it's a really great way to introduce people to Bluebeam Revu without having to force them to pay for it in order to test it, so to speak, especially if your trial is expired. So if your trial expires, then this is a great way to do it.
Okay, next question. For how long will I have a Bluebeam Revu features while I invited to the session and I don't own the program? For how long?
Indefinitely. As long as the session is open, when you're in that session, you will have the functionality. So it's not a problem whatsoever.
Okay, so
When the
it's when
session
you are
ends,
in the
then
session. Okay, when you are
yes.
inside the session. Okay, very good.
And if the
Thank you.
session ends, then you basically need to be invited to another session in order to be able to use those functions again.
Very good, thank you. Can you transfer files from a project to a session and from a session to a project and back?
Good question. No, you cannot. Basically, files need to be downloaded locally first. So let's say that I've uploaded a lot of files to a studio project. I have everything set up and ready to go. I have the original files. Then I can download local copies. So I can have everything local on my PC, or if I'm connected to a server at my job, then I can put everything on the server. Once everything on the server is ready, then I would make a session for every specific job and all of those different files associated with the job. And then I would upload the files from the server or locally to the session. So it's basically, it goes from projects to local or server, and then local or server to a session. And that's basically the proper procedure. And of course, vice versa. You can have stuff on a session, download it locally, and then you can just upload it to a project. So it just has to be local or server-wide files that need to go and be transferred first. There's no direct communication between sessions and projects.
All right, thank you, Ari. By the way, I just received an email of a notification
Yes.
directly to my email. So for the person that asked that, yes, it can be done via sent to the email.
Raquel is good.
Can you upload different kinds of files to a project or a session?
So like we saw earlier, to a project, yes, you can upload CAD files, BIM files, you can upload Excel worksheets if you want, no problem. And when you try to open them, when you're in Bluebeam Revu, it'll just automatically open whatever native program that they're part of. So if you try to open an Excel file, it'll open Excel, or Google spreadsheets. It depends on what you have. Now for sessions, you can't. You only have access to PDFs. So this is the big difference. So with session, it's more of a let's work on PDFs for a job now, and in projects, it's let's organize everything related to the project. It doesn't matter what if it's a PDF or not. Let's have it there ready to view. And this is why I like to call Bluebeam Revu a project management software.
The part of the projects, right?
Yes, it's exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, thank you, Ari. I have a very funny question of one of the attendees. He is asking that why if we are selling DDS CAD shirts. So
Oh
because
yeah,
you have
cool.
yours on and he liked it. Thank you.
Yeah,
I would say,
they're
Ari, do you
classic.
have your mask? You have your
I,
DDS CAD
I do
mask?
have my mask.
Put it on so they
Let's
see
show it
it for a
off. Give me 1 second, guys. That should be fun. Ah,
There you
sometimes we wear
go.
these
So
around
we
the
have the
office.
t-shirt and the mask, but we don't have it for sale. Sorry about that.
We
So
just
thank
got
you
them
for
recently, yeah.
asking. All right, so I don't see any more questions for the moment. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today. It has been a pleasure to be here with you. Our blog, like Ari mentioned, is live. You can go to that link shown on the screen, and there are a lot of recordings that he has made about a lot of different things in Bluebeam Revu. I don't know if you want to show a little piece of that.
Yeah, why
Ari.
not? Let's go to it from here directly. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Uh-oh,
Now,
it can't
while
be
he goes
found.
there,
It doesn't
uh,
exist.
yeah. We also have Bluebeam Revu training available. You can contact us and we can do a customized training for your group. Right now, we're doing it remotely because of the severe virus situation, but it's our pleasure to do it for you guys. So let us know if you need it. So you
So
go to
before we continue on that,
ddscat.com. Uh-huh.
I'll just show you guys the blog really quick. Sorry about that, Raquel. So all you have to do is go to ddscad.com. At the top, you can see that we have a lot of tabs, and blog is the last one. I believe that we recently changed it. That's why that Knowledge Center link isn't quite working, although it should. It's still the Knowledge-Center, but that's okay. So this is the Bluebeam one. We also have an Autodesk one. I've made some videos on there, and our senior AEC technical specialist, Mr. James Cuervo, has made the other half. He is so experienced with CAD, Revit, 3ds Max, so you can definitely see a lot of the sophisticated features in Revit and AutoCAD that he's showcased there. Here's our Bluebeam one, and we can load more. So from the beginning, when Bluebeam Revu 2018 was out, in September 3rd, 2019, I made this one. And I made all of these. So if you guys are ever interested, and one that's in particular quite useful, especially if you're trying to sign and seal files and you want to do it the right way. You can look at this one that I made on April 20th when it comes to signing and sealing certified files, and how do you send your digital ID certificate to other people. So this could be quite nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information on this blog, so go ahead and visit us when you have a chance. While we were just wrapping up, there was another question coming in, Ari. Is
Okay,
there
great.
a way to automatically save projects files to server files?
I don't believe that there's an automatic way. In settings, I haven't seen it. I can look quickly and see. I'm actually curious if there is an automatic way. There might be. But I'm a very manual person, so I've made it a habit to just go file, save as, and so on and so forth. But let's go into our project settings and see. I don't think it's possible. Yeah, from what I know, it's not possible. So no, you would just want to manually save periodically to your server. Now, the good news is that in Studio projects, as long as you're not checking in and out files and they're not left checked out for hours and hours on end, your files are very secure and safe. I haven't lost any of my work. I've had this project for a very long time, over 6 months. It's been going strong. And I just basically get used to saving local copies. So you have a file open, file, and oh, you have to check it out actually to make a local copy. So yes, if you do want to make local copies, you'll want to check it out first. So that's why basically everything is on the cloud, so you don't really have to worry. But no, at this time, I don't think that there's any way to automatically save your work from a project. Good question, though.
Okay, thank you, Ari. I have another, actually, this was an email, and it's one of our beloved customers. He has gone through training, all his group has gone through training with you, and still he's telling us today that he says, thank you, I learned much more than I expected. This was my first webinar besides the training. Thank you, Ari, is awesome. So
Oh,
thank you
great.
so
I
much.
have a feeling I know who that is. I wonder
Yeah,
who
I
that
think you know.
is.
All right. So again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Like I said, you can go to our website and check out our blog. You can ask us about review training if you need it. It will be our pleasure to work with you. You can also download a 30 days free trial from Bluebeam for Bluebeam Revu. This trial will be only on the edition extreme where you have all the features available, and you can download that from our website. Please email us with any information or any questions that you need or you have, and take paperless workflows to the whole new level. Let's go with Bluebeam Revu. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ari, for a great presentation. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.